Lauren acknowledged being close to Snoop at that point. Everyone initially believed it to be a typical friendship. However, recent video of Snoop and Lauren together is causing some people to take notice. According to some, it proves a secret link or even that she was involved in setting them up. Allow me to explain. Lauren London and Snoop. Fresh video. All that was required to whip the hip-hop culture into a frenzy was that video that doesn't only feature Snoop Dogg can be seen grinning for the cameras or performing one of his carefree Uncle Snoop routines, but there is also footage of him standing next to Lauren London, Nipsey Hussle's longtime partner, in the wake of Nipsey's murder. As you can see, Lauren London is more than simply another member of Nipsey's mourning community. She belongs to Nipsey Circle. Lauren became the voice, the image, and the symbol of Nipsey's passing, from her moving homage at the Staples Center to her stirring statement at the BET Awards. The person standing beside her wasn't merely Lauren's neighbor. They were positioned adjacent to Nipsey's whole kingdom. Lauren was more than just Nipsey's bereaved spouse. She became his memory's public face. She became the live incarnation of his memories by the way she spoke about him, as we just witnessed. She is featured prominently in campaigns that pay tribute to Nipsey. She was given the microphone for tributes during award shows. Her voice was used extensively in documentaries to tell the tale of his influence. She was everywhere, not because she desired to be, but the culture required it. People were interested in seeing, hearing, and learning about Nipsey's experience from her. That made her more than just a romantic relationship. She turned into a piece of chess. You were standing next to Nipsey's memory if you were next to Lauren. And that's why this video went viral. Being close to Lauren meant being close to Nip's legacy. Additionally, Snoop's appearance in that picture didn't seem innocent in a world where that legacy was already being contested. It appeared to be well planned. However, in order to see why individuals responded as they did, you must go back to the instant Nipsey died. Los Angeles suffered more than just a setback when the gunshots rang out in front of the Marathon shop. Rapper. It lost a businessman, a community builder, and a man who had risen above the block while maintaining its stability. Furthermore, the consequences are never straightforward when a guy surpasses his peers. Jealousy is equal to love. Betrayal is equal to loyalty. Black Sam, Nipsey's sibling, took on the role of guardian right away. He was defending, not only grieving. He made it plain that the family will continue to run Nipsey's empire and that anyone who disdained his brother's name would suffer the repercussions. These were not meaningless words. They served as a warning. Sam was aware that vultures might circle. He anticipated the arrival of opportunists. Furthermore, he had no intention of turning Nipsey's kingdom into a feeding ground. However, this is when the trouble started. Contracts and enterprises weren't the only foundation of Nipsey's empire. It was based on connections. Relationships are also brittle. Fractures showed up even among Nipsey's closest friends and family. Following Nip's passing, Brick Baby said that he and Black Sam had a disagreement over loyalty. Nipsey's defeat accomplished this. People were compelled to take sides. Every alliance became suspicious as a result. Transformed sorrow into distrust. Then followed Charleston White's shocking assertion. He said the truth aloud that no one wanted to acknowledge. Nipsey was murdered by his own jealousy as well as by another man. Said, consider the implications of that. If Nipsey's excessive height led to his clipping at that time, his empire was not only being attacked outside. From the inside, it was besieged. And the industry steps in at this point. Because the music industry saw opportunity while the streets struggled with jealousy and the family fought. The code had been cracked by Nipsey. His masters belonged to him. His brand belonged to him. He was the owner of his block. His greatest asset was his independence. And that independence made him dangerous in a field that relies heavily on exploitation. Suge Knight made the assertion that tied everything together from his prison cell. He claimed that by exposing Nipsey and his group to more potent substances, Puffy caused instability. This was more than simply a celebration. A movement was being weakened by this. After that, he revealed to Snoop that Snoop was moving in the shadows and even attempting to save Tupac's killer, Keef D, because Keef was talking too much. The streets of Los Angeles were rife with suspicion literally weeks after Nipsey was killed. The Marathon store became a site of both sacrosanctity and controversy. Who was authorized to act as Nipsey's representative? Who was he speaking to? And who was gaining influence by utilizing his name? With each day that went by, the rumors became louder. In interviews, longtime affiliates were charged with abusing Nipsey's name. Posts on social media became battlefields. Posing in front of a mural would instantly lead to accusations of fame-seeking. Another might be labeled a fraud and say they were like family. It was chaos. Furthermore, that turmoil wasn't arbitrary. It was the aftermath of Nipsey's passing, which left a void in authority. When you put everything together, you can understand why people became agitated. They anticipate that Lauren London will realize she is experiencing more than just grief. Additionally, she is bearing the burden of Nipsey's empire. She is his torchbearer, and Snoop is attempting to steal it by approaching her too closely. Snoop will do all it takes to obtain what he wants from Nipsey. He has demonstrated this in the past. It hardly matters whether you believe it or not. The important thing is that vision turned into reality. And it was evident how it was perceived. Not only was Snoop Dogg in sorrow, he was getting into position. Nipsey's passing was more than just a personal tragedy. It was an act of politics. Snoop became closer to Nipsey's memory by standing next to Lauren. He gained credibility by getting closer. Additionally, he solidified his standing as the West Coast's elder statesman by establishing credibility. It seemed natural to some. It was predatory to others. However, the result was the same in both situations. The video grew to represent the greater struggle for Nipsey's monarchy. Without a doubt, there was a throne. You would realize that Nipsey wasn't simply shot and killed by a lone shooter if you trusted what Suge had previously claimed about Snoop. He was debilitated, feeble, and exposed to forces greater than the local community. Suge also accused another person of being biased. Dog, Snoop. The video impacted harder than anyone anticipated because of this. It wasn't about the actual events depicted in the video. It was about what it stood for. It appeared to the family that others were filling in. It appeared to be a power shift to the streets. It appeared to be an opportunity to the industry. Additionally, it appeared to the followers to be confirmation of every hunch they had been harboring since 2019. Why wouldn't supporters be skeptical, of course? Everyone is aware of Snoop's identity. Snoop's treacherous past. One of the most renowned rappers to have set foot on a microphone, Tupac Shakur, was shot down in Las Vegas in 1996. Additionally, the account of what actually transpired that evening has been recounted in the years thereafter and 1,000 times over. One thing, though, is that people consistently point to those who are closest to him. Additionally, Snoop's name keeps coming up in that discussion. The cause is straightforward. Snoop was Tupac's brother-in-arms when he was living. Together, they made a recording. Together, they went out to party. Together, they stood on stages. However, Snoop was secretly befriending the very individuals Pac viewed as adversaries. Big Dre was purportedly in the car with Keef D on the night Tupac was killed. For example, you would expect that somebody who is devoted to Pac would avoid someone like that. Not Snoop. Following Tupac's passing, he collaborated with Big Dre on a mixtape. In 1996, Tupac passed away, and Snoop was in a challenging situation. In Pac's last days, their relationship had been tense. However, following the passing, Snoop became one of Pac's most outspoken mourners, redefining his image while identifying with the catastrophe and the person connected to it. Give that some thought. Your sibling has been killed. The suspects are still clearly visible. Additionally, your cutting record-cated story. In prison, Pac wasn't despised. Snoop has frequently presented himself as close to Biggie, particularly since Tupac's passing. He has related tales of their sincere discussions, peaceful times, and mutual respect. However, Diddy's former bodyguard Gene Deal claims that's just media spin. Gene Deal wondered why, despite their close relationship, Snoop and Biggie never got together when Biggie was in Los Angeles. However, after Pac's passing, Snoop says he saw Biggie in Atlanta. Man, hurry up. The story doesn't align with reality once more. which leads us back to Nipsey Hussle. Because you already know what happened next if you can see the pattern.
Nipsey diss.
Snoop sobs. Among other things, Snoop refers to him as my darling brother. He then releases a tribute album. He informs Thane the world, Nipsey was the new Snoop, and fans were devastated. However, with closer inspection, you begin to notice the fractures. Nipsey was missed by Snoop. Indeed. However, he was also observed spending time with Big U. Nipsey forewarned others about this same dude. Nipsey made it apparent that he didn't want to be coerced or extorted in a diss track that was directed specifically at Big U. Everyone is aware that Big U forced Nipsey to pay protection expenses by shaking him down. Nipsey died after he ceased making payments. Nevertheless, Snoop relished Big U's companionship. Thus, history repeats itself. Similar to Biggie and Tupac, respectively. Snoop sides with their adversaries while the legend is still alive. As soon as the legend is gone, Snoop takes the lead in rewriting the narrative, centering himself as the brother in mourning. Nip's death can no longer be regarded as a random hit because of this. Although he may have squeezed the shot, Eric Holder was not the mastermind behind the act. Larger powers, unseen hands, and those who stood to lose more from Nipsey's victory were all there. And it appears like Snoop is finally confirming what the streets have long whispered because of these leaks. Lauren London wasn't merely a victim of the situation. It's possible that she was hiding something all along. Nipsey began avoiding certain industry gatherings toward the end of his life, declining to check in or participate in the extortion games. If only Nipsey had known that a companion he was with had ties to the very powers he was trying to escape, maybe things would have been different. Snoop has repeatedly demonstrated that he is capable of surviving, if there is one thing. The fallout from Nip's passing. In the hip-hop community, Nipsey Hussle's murder on March 31, 2019, was more than simply another heartbreaking news story. Millions of lives were destroyed by the earthquake, which also sent shockwaves across communities, music, and culture worldwide. Many others thought of Nipsey as more than just a musician they streamed on Spotify or listened to in the car. He was a live, breathing illustration of what was possible. He was standing as evidence that you might overcome the chaos of the streets, start from nothing, and create something enduring without selling into the system. Because he lived what he rapped, fans adored him in addition to his music. He didn't merely spit forth lyrics about possession. His masters belonged to him. He discussed more than just reinvesting in the neighborhood. He established companies in Crenshaw and provided employment to those whose society had rejected. He didn't only rap about loyalty either. Even though he had every opportunity to abandon his neighborhood due to fame and wealth, he remained loyal to it. Consequently, when word leaked out that Nipsey had been shot dead in front of his own Marathon store, which had turned into a representation of his vision, the response was unfiltered, instantaneous, and overwhelming. People flocked to Los Angeles to the streets. Crowds gathered outside the Marathon and left murals, candles, flowers, and handwritten letters. Everyone felt as though they had lost a family member, so they sobbed aloud and embraced complete strangers. And they had, in a sense. Despite being the voice of South Central, Nipsey's influence was global. Murals may be found in places all around the nation, not just in Los Angeles. From New York, Chicago, Houston, and even abroad, people painted Nipsey's face on walls from London to Lagos, announcing that the marathon would go on. Social media was ablaze with heartfelt tweets, hashtags, and tributes. For a while, it seemed as though the whole civilization had paused to mourn. Supporters weren't merely lamenting the man. They were lamenting his values. Fans weren't the only ones devastated by Nipsey's passing. The artists who had grown up admiring him were crushed. Nipsey was more than just a peer to up-and-coming rappers. He served as a big brother, a mentor, and a real-life example of how to succeed in the field without sacrificing your identity. Roddy Ricch has publicly said that his ascent to fame was aided by Nipsey's backing. Nipsey encouraged him to think he could do more, co-signed his skill, and offered him counsel. Following the murder, YG, Nipsey's closest ally, sobbed in public. He acknowledged that he had lost his sibling in addition to his lover. The last time I checked their joint track, it was now an anthem. Beyond the music, though, they were two men who wished to improve the neighborhoods in which they lived. YG claimed that Nipsey inspired him to think more broadly, see beyond celebrity, and create something enduring. YG said that it seemed like a piece of his vision had also perished with Nipsey gone. It was evident that Nipsey's influence extended well beyond music, even from industry titans like Kendrick Lamar and Jay-Z. Kendrick praised Nipsey for embodying the finest qualities of Los Angeles. Jay-Z quietly set up a trust fund for Nipsey's children, Imani and Cross, ensuring that the legacy Nipsey left behind would not die with him. He was described as an inspiration by LeBron James. In a letter to Nipsey's memorial, Barack Obama commended him for his dedication to his neighborhood. That was the strength of Nip's presence. He was more than simply a rapper. He was a leader who went against cultural boundaries. The worst aspect, perhaps, was that Nipsey was just getting started. He was finally confirmed as a Grammy nominee with his album Victory Lap. He had spent years honing the initiative, and it demonstrated that he could achieve success on his own terms. However, Victory Lap was only the start of Nipsey's strategy. Nipsey was constructing a South Central real estate empire behind the scenes. He wasn't purchasing Beverly Hills real estate. In an effort to create safe havens for the coming generation, he was purchasing the identical blocks on which he had grown up. He was funding innovative startups and promoting for developing chances that would survive any record agreement, as well as STEM programs for local children. He frequently expressed his desire to be more than just a rapper. He aspired to be a mogul, someone who could tip the hip-hop power dynamics back toward the artists and away from the corporations. Nipsey was not viewed as competition by other rappers. He was viewed as a leader by them. They witnessed him paving the way, facilitating the development of independence and ownership by the following generation. He was viewed by the neighborhood as evidence that someone might leave the hood and take everyone with him. And it seemed like the system had triumphed once more when that was removed. The same old story, a visionary was killed right before he could alter the rules of the game. On the other hand, Nipsey always stated that the marathon goes on. And those remarks became a rallying cry following his passing. Songs, movements, social media posts, murals, and tattoos are all devoted to preserving Nipsey's vision. Nevertheless, the sorrow of realizing what was lost cannot be taken away by any memorial, mural, or hashtag. There was more to Nipsey Hussle than simply another rapper. He was a businessman, a father, a teacher, and a leader. Furthermore, his passing was more than a personal sorrow. It was a theft of culture. This is the twist that hurts the most, though. While artists promised to continue Nipsey's legacy and fans grieved, rumors started to circulate the idea that this might not be another pointless violent act. Perhaps Eric Holder wasn't the only one pulling the trigger. Perhaps Nipsey's attackers were able to get past him because of the people closest to him, who were supposed to be protecting him. Fans aren't only lamenting Nipsey's passing because of this. They're upset, furious that someone with Diddy's unending power and influence might have pulled strings behind the scenes. Furious at the idea that Diddy and Lauren London, the actress who stood on stage and wept for Nipsey, may have been closer than anyone thought. And upset with Snoop Dogg, Nip's alleged brother, who consistently appears at the epicenter of these catastrophes with a eulogy in his mouth. But his devotion is called into question. The sadness of losing Nipsey gave way to mistrust. Suspicion evolved into indignation, which in turn evolved into a call for clarification. Eric Holder did it is no longer enough for fans. They have a broader perspective. It wasn't just a man who killed Nipsey. A system of power, avarice, treachery, and manipulation silenced him. Additionally, the video of Snoop and Lauren appearing too near becomes more apparent as you make more connections. Lauren is purportedly bound to Diddy's world by the tapes. Given Snoop's past betrayals of Biggie and Tupac, the more you understand that the marathon continued after Nip's passing. It marked the beginning of a far more sinister race. Because it wasn't just Nipsey that the artists and fans lost. He was constructing the future for them. The hardest pill to accept is the possibility that those closest to him, rather than complete strangers, may have stolen that future. I appreciate you watching. Please remember to visit our channel for more incredible content if you like this video. We'll see you in the next one. Be careful.